Try a small experiment. Break off a piece of 70% dark chocolate. It doesn't need to be large, just a small square. Place it in your mouth and let it melt slowly. In the first few seconds, the bitterness appears first. It isn't exactly pleasant, but it's not unpleasant enough to make you wince. Then something interesting begins to happen. You may start to feel a slight sense of mental clarity. Not the sudden jolt you get from drinking a strong cup of coffee, but more like someone quietly opening a window in the room. The air feels a little fresher. Your thoughts seem a bit clearer. That feeling is not imaginary. Chocolate can actually give the brain a gentle boost. It's not intense or overwhelming, but it's enough for many people to feel a bit more focused or slightly better in mood. What makes this even more interesting is that the effect does not come from just one ingredient. Instead, it comes from a trio of natural compounds hidden inside cacao beans. Those compounds are flavanols, caffeine, and theobromine. The names may sound like something you would hear in a laboratory, but if you look closely, they behave almost like three members of a small team working together. One helps blood flow more easily, another gently stimulates the nervous system, and the third keeps that stimulation smooth and balanced, preventing it from feeling overwhelming. When these three elements come together in a piece of dark chocolate, what happens in your brain becomes far more interesting than simply eating a sweet treat. Inside cacao beans is a surprisingly impressive chemical system. It's not some kind of superdrug like the exaggerated claims often made in supplement advertisements, but it is powerful enough to create subtle changes inside the body. The first character in this story is flavanols. These are natural compounds found in cacao, date, and certain fruits. Their role is quite fascinating. They help blood vessels relax and widen slightly. When blood vessels expand, blood can flow more easily, which means more oxygen can reach the brain. Imagine your brain as a city. Blood vessels are like highways transporting oxygen and nutrients. When flavanols go to work, it's as if extra lanes suddenly open on those highways. Traffic moves more smoothly, and the city operates more efficiently. The second character is more familiar caffeine, the same stimulant found in coffee. However, the amount of caffeine in chocolate is usually quite small. A bar of dark chocolate might contain around 20 to 30 milligrams of caffeine. To put that into perspective, a typical cup of coffee may contain around 90 milligrams. In other words, chocolate delivers only a gentle push, like someone lightly tapping your shoulder rather than ringing a loud alarm. The third character is what truly makes cacao unique, theobromine. This compound belongs to the same family as caffeine, but its effects are milder and smoother. It provides a gentle stimulation to the nervous system, while also helping to improve mood. If caffeine is like a loud alarm clock, theobromine is more like morning sunlight, slowly filling the room. You wake up gradually, and the experience feels far more comfortable. When flavanols, caffeine, and theobromine come together, chocolate creates a rather unique effect. A gentle sense of alertness, a lift in mood, and sometimes a clearer feeling of mental focus. Now imagine two chocolate bars placed side by side on a table. One is a 70% dark chocolate bar. The other is milk chocolate. Both taste good. Yet the experience inside your brain when eating them can be quite different. Dark chocolate contains more cacao, which means it also carries higher amounts of flavanols and theobromine. When you take a bite, the influence of these compounds can create a sensation similar to wiping a window clean. Your view becomes a little clearer, your thoughts feel a little more organized, and your mind seems slightly sharper. Milk chocolate works in a different way. It contains more sugar and milk, so the dominant sensation often comes from sugar. Sugar encourages the brain to release dopamine, a chemical associated with pleasure and reward. This helps explain why milk chocolate often produces a feeling of comfort and satisfaction almost immediately. You can picture this difference with a simple image. Dark chocolate is like wiping dust off a window so you can see outside more clearly. Milk chocolate is like spreading a layer of caramel over the glass. It's sweet and enjoyable, but you are viewing the world through that sugary layer. Neither one is entirely right or wrong. They simply serve different purposes. One leans more toward flavor and emotional comfort, while the other emphasizes a more direct experience of cacao itself. Now imagine yourself standing in a supermarket in front of a shelf full of chocolate. Dozens of dark chocolate bars line the display, marked with numbers like 60%, Baffinger t-shirt, and 85%. The packaging looks elegant. The descriptions sound sophisticated. And sometimes there are even promises about potential health benefits. How can you tell which bar is actually closer to natural cacao? In reality, it only takes about 5 seconds. The first step is to look at the ingredient list. If cacao or cacao mass appears first, that is usually a good sign. Food ingredients are listed in order of weight, which means the first ingredient makes up the largest portion of the product. Next, check where sugar appears on the list. If sugar is listed near the top, that chocolate bar may be sweeter than you expect. Finally, look at the length of the ingredient list. Truly simple chocolate usually contains only a few components: cacao, cocoa butter, and a small amount of sugar. When the list becomes long and filled with various additives, the product has likely gone through more processing. This simple rule doesn't require a chemistry degree. Just a few seconds of observation can already tell you quite a lot about what you're buying. And perhaps that is the best way to think about chocolate, not as a nutritional miracle, and not as a guilty pleasure either. It is simply a product made from cacao beans, transformed by human creativity into many different forms to match different tastes. The next time you break off a piece of dark chocolate and let it melt slowly in your mouth, remember that inside it there is more than just sugar and cacao. A small chemical story is unfolding inside your brain, and that story is part of what makes chocolate one of the most fascinating foods humans have ever created. By the way, if you've ever wondered why a small piece of chocolate can lift your mood so quickly, the answer also involves something else: the way the brain responds to bitterness. But that is another curious story about the human sense of taste.